Hello everybody, it's Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. It is Monday, June 30th, and it's time for another Make It Monday. You're going to notice tonight that my video is coming to you just a little bit different. I've actually pre-recorded this video tonight. I'm trying to come up with some alternatives to going live on Facebook because they aren't keeping videos out there for more than 30 days. I understand their decision, but it's making things a little more challenging for me as I go to share my videos with the rest of you. I am not affiliated with any company. I don't do this to make money or anything else. I simply am making these videos to share with people, to show them fun ways to make new cards, maybe help them find their creative spot, basically finding one card at a time. And so as I'm going through this process, I also need to find a way that I can be more efficient in my video making, so that it's not making quite as much time. So for tonight and probably the next few weeks, as I'm practicing a couple things, I'm going to be pre-recording videos, posting them on YouTube, and sharing that link on Facebook. As I said, my name is Carol Garrison, and I have been making cards for over 30 years. Kind of started out with the stylus light table sort of approach, and eventually found rubber stamping, and that is what I have been doing. And between beautiful stamps, designer series paper, embossing folders, fun fold techniques, that type of thing, I've really found my joy in making cards. And as I said, I share these videos simply to help others find that same joy too. So I am going to share with you tonight a very fun tri-fold card. I've got a couple examples made up for you already. We've got this pretty one in kind of shades of yellow and green, and it's just got these 3 panels with a little happy birthday sentiment in it. What's nice about this is it is a card that will stand up and be a great display card. So that is one of my 3 cards. I did pop up, just so you can see a little bit maybe, this flower onto foam pieces, and then used a little wink of Stella on the front of the card as well, just to add a little pop to that card. Here's a slightly more masculine version of this card. Again, a happy birthday greeting. And I've just got my layers of paper. And then when you open it up, I switched this one up a little bit by putting the space to write in the center of my card. On this one, I've got it on that right panel. On this one, I've got it going in the center of my card. Just trying to share different ways. And again, with both these cards, they are designed so that they are something that a recipient could display on a table or shelf if they wanted to do that. So this is a really fun card. It's easy to make. Primarily you're doing some die cuts, but if you don't have fancy die cuts, don't fret. You could also simply cut out rectangles and this card would work. So the first thing you need is a piece of cardstock that measures 3 inches by 3 inches by 10.5 inches. And then you need to have, I actually, cut these out of scraps that I keep. So I've got 3 rectangles in that color. I had to dig a little further to get scraps in this color. And then I took designer series paper and I cut out 2 triangles of that and 1 in basic white. And then I also tapped into my scrap white paper and colored and die cut out some of these balloons. Now, one of the things I'm encouraging everybody to do is reach into their stash and use some of that. And that's exactly what I've done with my card here tonight, as well as the samples that I've created. I can't say that. I did buy some new paper, but mostly I am using what is in my stash because I have so much of it. And it's kind of fun to see what I can pull out and create. So let me show you real quick how to make this card. I have scored this at 3.5 inches and then 7 inches, or you can do 3.5 and then rotate it and do another 3.5. And we're just going to fold this card into that style of fold. And I'm going to take my bone folder and burnish that score line, and I'm going to repeat the process and do the same thing here. And then we're going to start, I'm going to stamp the birthday sentiment real quick. I am using a happy birthday sentiment that is vertical, and there are not very many vertical stamp sets out there for happy birthday, but if you're looking for one, this is from the So Sincere Stampin' Up set. And I knew I had this vertical stamp, but I spent way too much time looking for it in my stash of stamps. So I'm hoping I don't forget this going forward. So the first thing I'm going to do is just ink this up. It is a narrow stamp, so be careful you're not getting ink on the edges. I find sometimes with these, I do tend to get a little ink on the edges, so I just need to be cautious about that when I'm stamping. And I'm going to just put it on the left side of my cardstock that will be on the inside of my greeting card. And then, like I said, just for time purposes, I did already stamp balloons and die cut them with dies that happen to be balloon shape. So those are done. All right, and I do like to clean my stamps off right away because I do have a tendency to put stuff into my wet ink. Hate when that happens. So the first thing we're going to do is start to assemble our card. So I need to get my 3 pieces of blue paper and my 3 pieces of green paper, and I'm just going to create that layer. And I like to just make a Z on the back of my card, my cardstock, and that's all the adhesive I'm going to use. You could also use liquid glue if that's your technique. I also will look at these corners to make sure I have the same spacing. That pretty much guarantees then that these corners will have the appropriate spacing as well. So I need to put 3 of these together, 1 for each panel, and I'm just checking to see front and back on my die cuts. It's not a big deal if I messed it up, but you can kind of tell if you feel the back side, that die cut marking, especially when it's these stitched rectangle type shapes or any stitch shape, the back side is going to be rougher than the front side. And I think it just gives a more polished, finished look, but you can use either side. Again, I'm just looking at those opposite on the diagonal corners and adding that layer. So the most time-consuming part is actually creating these layers of cardstock, and it's not that bad. Like I said, I just started die cutting, and because they're rectangles, because you're cutting on blank shapes, you don't have to worry if you're exactly perfect in lining up or being straight because it's a solid color. So even that doesn't go too far. And then I'm just going to do my one inside panel with the happy birthday sentiment on it. Again, looking at opposite corners and doing that. If anybody's curious, these are the stitched rectangle dies. They are retired, but they did come from Stampin' Up. I've got 2 pieces of designer series paper that I'm going to use to decorate my other 2 panels. And initially I was going to put this particular piece right on the front panel of my card, but I didn't like how the balloons looked. I thought they kind of, all the circles kind of got lost, and so I did a quick change of mind as I was doing my layout. And initially too, the other thing I was going to use this, I did not like how it looked on the blue, since where I cut this I didn't have any blue. So I'm back to using squares. Don't be afraid to change your plan midstream if you're not liking how things are looking. Fix it. Change it up. There's no shame in that. All right. And so now we've got those panels lined up. And here I'm going to put on these 5 balloons. And I'm going to be playing a little bit to see how I'm going to arrange them. Some will be flat on here, and I will raise up a couple on dimensionals as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back of these three. And I'm really just going to kind of randomly put them onto my card here. One thing that I do want to do before I add my other balloons is just get some white twine out. That's going to become the string for the balloons. And the reason I want to, whoops, that's the wrong color of twine I'm grabbing here. Just a moment. The reason I want to get this put on before I add the other balloons is I'm hoping to hide that string up here somewhere so that the one end will not show. And so I am just going to cut a few pieces of twine. Doesn't have to be very long, but I'm going to cut it longer than I think it needs to be because I can always trim it shorter. Not quite as easy to stretch it out and make it longer. And I'm going to have 5 balloons, so I do want to make sure that for some reason I have 5 strings coming off this card. And I will trim them up so they're, you know, even when all is said and done. I actually am going to lift this balloon up. And I'm just going to add a piece of adhesive kind of where I had that balloon. And put all of this string right here. It'll be covered by the balloons, so I'm not concerned about that. And we'll put that there. And then I'm going to pop these 2 up on dimensionals. Actually, I'm going to put this blue one up on dimensionals too. It'll be amazing if that one even sticks. There. And we'll add 2 more of these. So it's kind of like a bunch of balloons. I don't know. There we go. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is grab one more piece of string and I'm going to put it behind all my other strings. And I'm just going to tie that into a little knot around my strings so that it looks like it's a bunch of balloons being held together. It's just a kind of a finishing touch on the card, not necessary, but I think it makes the card a little nicer looking. I will cut these fairly short because they aren't so much a part of the card, but now I've got a bunch of balloons with the string. And because balloons are shiny and sparkly, and because I love Wink of Stella, I'm going to just brush some of this onto those balloons now that they're in place and add some sparkle to the card. I could have put this on before I layered them, but it really doesn't make a difference. If you've not heard of Wink of Stella or you don't have any, I'm going to encourage you to get some. It's paint on glitter, basically, but it doesn't have the mess of glitter, which I love, and it just adds a little sparkle to your card. All right, so we have our 3 panels done. Now I want to just show you how we assemble this card, and it's super easy, and we will be done. So again, I think I'm going to put my sentiment in the middle of my card. I kind of like how that looked. So the first panel is probably your most important panel to get on straight because it's going to become the guide for our other 2 panels. You only want to put your adhesive on the bottom half of your panel because, whoops, you know, that's my wrong panel. This is going to be the front panel. On the lower portion of the card because it's going to be hanging off. Let me show you on one of these. It hangs off the back. Top side is not connected to anything, so you don't want to put adhesive all the way up. So I put it just under 1/2 of my card. And then I open this up, and for my front panel, I am centering it left and right. And then I want to make sure I've got the same border on the bottom. And I'm just going to hold it down. And now that panel is on my card. So I can get my other 2 panels attached super easy. Since I've already got adhesive on this one, I'm going to go ahead and attach it. And so I'm just going to have my card opened up like this, because this piece will go here. And to line it up, we're going to do it kind of backwards. We're going to line up face down onto the cardstock, and I'm going to line up the top and the corners here, and then just make sure that it's straight on the side, and I'm just going to close the back onto that piece. And now it's not going to show when the card is folded up, and it's going to be even when the card is opened up. I'm going to repeat that process with this card, and again just put adhesive on the lower part of my card. And then to line this one up, I am going to put it on this card, or this rectangle, I guess it would be. And again, make sure my corners are lined up and that it's straight. And then we're just going to fold this piece over. And now all 3 of our rectangles are lined up. And it took us no time to get them there. So super fun. There's a fun little kid card. An adult happy birthday card, and another adult birthday card. I have a lot of birthdays coming up, so I am making a lot of those cards right now. But super easy card. So again, measurements for this piece of cardstock is 3 by 10.5, and you're going to score it at 3.5 and 7, or 3.5, rotate, and 3.5 again. These pieces, I just looked at what dies I was going to use, and I found scrap paper that was big enough for it. Otherwise, just measure your die and just go a little bit larger so that your die can fit on it without being cut off on the sides. Very, very easy card. Have fun making this. If you do, please be sure to post some copies for me, or some pictures of your card. I think we inspire each other by sharing these cards, and help each other find our creativity. If you thought we needed a little, a few gems on here, feel free to add some gems just to give a little spark. I'm choosing not to, simply because I'm going to be mailing these cards and it's already kind of bulky. But if you're going to hand deliver, or you are willing to pay extra on postage so that they can be hand canceled if you have a lot of bump through rhinestones and gems and that type of thing, feel free, go for it. Take care, everybody, and we will see you next week, which would be, oh gosh, we're already going to be into July. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see ya. Thanks for joining in. Bye-bye.